Week 1 of American Conference football is in the books. We're going to talk about that and Week 2. I'm Maria Trivelpiece alongside Kyle Youmans for the second episode of this season of All-American. Kyle, we have so much to cover, but there's an upset this week over a top 25 team by an American Conference team. That's just one of the things we're going to talk about today.
That is one of the things that we're going to talk about. We talked about some high flyers last week, who we expected to step up, who we expected to struggle, and then, of course, like we mentioned last week, things can flip on its head very quickly. We were right about some things. We were wrong about some things, and we're going to be accountable. That's what we're here for, is to be accountable for all of you, the American Conference fans out there and college football fans everywhere. And like you said, lots of entertainment to talk about from Week 1. The conference goes 9-5 overall. Had some good wins, had some not so good performances, but we're going to talk through it all, starting with that South Florida win against the Boise State Broncos.
Well, the defense was good, but Byram Brown is back for South Florida, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. He was incredible.
Yeah. But
that is a huge win for the American, a team that made the CFP last season. So, man, I really enjoyed watching that one.
Well, and it was a big rally cry from Alex Golesh as the head coach. We talked about the swagger that he brings to the table. He showed some of that swagger and showed some honor as well going into that matchup.
Take anything for granted. I'm gonna quote one of the greatest human beings I've ever been around. One of the greatest coaches I've been around. One of the greatest men I've ever been around. We were only around him for about a year and a half. But Coach Amir said, "This ain't the same old South Florida."
And, of course, South Florida has benefited from having some great head coaches in the past. Alex Golesh referring to the late Amir Abdur-Rahim. And he's right. This isn't the same old South Florida. This is a different ball club. We said last week that this is a really talented team. I don't think we really gave them credit for just how much they were going to be in that football game against Boise, and they took care of business early in the week.
Well, I think they're benefiting from some great recruiting as well. When we heard from Alex Golesh at Media Day, he talked about how playing those big teams right at the beginning of the season makes his guys a little bit more excited during camp to get ready to go, and it also offers an opportunity for a lot of recruits to look at that schedule and say, hey, I want to play in the Bay. And that's why he's been able to get some really good players, especially some good players on defense, because that's really where it started for the Bulls. Jalen Schuler in particular, a career high 14 tackles. He was the defensive player of the week in the American.
Yeah, all over the place. You can see, even on that play specifically, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys around the football. Remember, there's only 11 players that play on defense, and you can have 9 guys around the football. That's called team defense, and that's swarming to the football. We saw that from South Florida, not just early in that football game against Boise State, but throughout the entire matchup in all 4 quarters. It was really impressive to watch that unit go to work and make the plays that they did down the stretch.
And the thing was, too, they never really let up. They allowed only 7 points in this game, and it was against a Boise State team that was known for its offensive prowess from last year. And yes, they lose Ashton Genty, but they still had the returning quarterback. They had a lot of other weapons that they could use on offense, and South Florida said, nope, we're just going to put a stop to it right here.
Yeah, Maddox Madsen had no answer. The quarterback for Boise State running game was absolutely non-existent. There was nothing there from Boise State. And I want to take a look at some of these numbers here, okay? Numbers from 2024 in the Boise State offense. Ashton, Genty, and company, what they brought to the table, that's one thing. How about what they did against South Florida in the defense? 37 points per game to less to 7, I guess. That's an average straight up to the result. 30 points less than what they averaged a year ago. You talk about the yards per game, the third down percentage across the board. They had 12 turnovers all year last year, Maria, all season. South Florida forced them into 3. The defense and the special teams unit were the 2 things that helped you win this football game. Nico Gramatica had the turn of the tide early. Of course, Boise goes down, scores. They had the initial points on the board, 52-yard field goal from Gramatica, getting it done, knocking it through. And, of course, you've had that happen in Tampa Bay before. But then you had the turnovers. Then you had the special teams unit do what they did, the fake punt. How cool was the fake punt?
I have rewatched that clip
was the sweetest
so
play.
Many times because it's just like the sneakiness of it too. Like you bring in the other quarterback and Boise has no idea. And he sold it too. Like I want to know how much time was dedicated in practice to perfecting that play, because I don't think that Alex Golesh just threw him in there hoping that it would work. But it's one of those
There's
things.
got to be planning around it.
I know that, but I want to know, like, how much time do you dedicate to that? Like, what does that look like in the practice plan? And I think, like, for me too, it's one of those things where the defense did their job, right? They came in, they shut Boise down, and so that was one facet of the game. But when you can execute a play like that, that just completely shifts momentum even more so in your favor. And I think that it was not necessarily a turning point, but it just added fuel to the fire.
It definitely did. And, of course, it allowed time for the offense to catch up. And when they did, they caught up in a big way. Byron Brown, my goodness, he ended up being incredible at the end of the day. I said going into that matchup, he was going to be the best player on the field. I think some of his defenders may have something to say about that. But for the most part, I thought he was the most impressive player on the field. 16 of 24 passing, 210 yards, a couple rushing touchdowns, didn't have a passing touchdown in the matchup. We saw Byron Brown back at his best. And they're going to need it again this week. They go up against the SEC foe in Florida. But just in game one, returning from injury, he looks like the same Byron Brown, if not better.
I was so impressed with him because I knew what his capability was, right? But you never know how somebody is going to respond in that first game back from being injured and out for so long. And he really didn't miss a beat. He looked as confident as ever. He was a big reason that the offense was even able to generate a lot of the scoring. And so I think that if you're South Florida heading into this matchup against Florida, you should feel pretty good, especially with Byron Brown at quarterback.
All right, let's talk about this Florida matchup, because I think we're going to learn exactly how much of a college football playoff contender South Florida is this week, and how they react to the stage in which they're about to play in, because they have a ranked win already in check. Great. Got it. Good. Sounds good. Now you're going up in competition. You get another step in the right direction. Then they face Miami later in the campaign. So right now, I don't think a loss or even a blowout loss for South Florida does much to move the needle one way or the other. They're still going to have a chance, and it's a top 15 team that they're going to face in Florida. But if you're close in this game, if you're a competitive team all the way down to the wire, I think this could be the game for South Florida that Boise had against Oregon last year. You think about that early season matchup where Ashton Jeanty went for 200 yards on the road at Autzen Stadium against Oregon, a team that at that point in time was heralded as the top or number 2 team in the country. Boise stuck with them, play for play, fight for fight all the way through, and it ended up being an Oregon win, but people said, hey, don't forget about that Boise team. Of course, they run the table. They do what they did with Ashton Jeanty. They made the college football playoff. Don't put it past South Florida to do something similar against Florida this week. Florida's the better team. They should be the better team. They're the SEC squad that has a possible future Heisman winner playing quarterback in DJ Lagway. Really, really fun quarterback. One of the top recruits in the country during his high school tenure. But if they can keep it close, which I think they can, Byron Brown especially, if he plays well, I think they've got a shot to win that game, if not keep it close. If they can keep it close, I think this could be a statement game for South Florida. If they win it, then it is a statement game. And then you're starting to look at South Florida as a possible ranked team, maybe top 20 by that point in time.
Well, the thing that I think bodes well for South Florida is just how good the defense looked in week 1 against Boise State. Because you can have a great offense, but when you play these schools that are in the SEC or the ACC, those kind of schools, the defense is what makes the difference, right? You can have a fantastic quarterback. Byron Brown was awesome. But I think with South Florida having the defense performance that they had in week 1, I think that gives them a chance against this Florida team. And I'm excited to watch because there's also that in-state rivalry that people don't always talk about as much. But after having a sister who went to South Florida, the Bulls aren't very fond of the Gators in Gainesville. And so I think that adds an extra element that will help South Florida in this game.
I like it. Byron Brown needs to be nearly perfect in that matchup. The defense needs to be perfect in that matchup in order to win that game. I think they got an opportunity to do so. This is going to be a fun game. Keep an eye on this one. Circle it as we get closer and closer to the weekend because the nation doesn't know, but you know because you watch All-American. So you learned something there. You know what we learned over the weekend?
Oh, I learned a very important lesson from John Summerall.
Don't mess with the city of New Orleans. This is what he had to say.
Proud of our guys, man, for this to be we wore the green helmets today for the 20th anniversary of Katrina. Sure. I'm going to say one thing. I'm not trying to take a shot, but we requested to wear white jerseys because that's what that team wore. It got denied by the other team. That's their prerogative. But when you show disrespect to the city of New Orleans, that's what's going to happen to you. You're going to run into a team like this. They had a chip on their shoulder because I wanted them to wear the same exact uniform that team wore 20 years ago. Request got denied. We might have used that for a little bit of motivation to represent the city. So don't disrespect New Orleans ever.
Do not disrespect New Orleans ever. And when he talked, I loved it. And I also think, too, shout out to John Summerall and Tulane just for paying the respects to that team and to what happened 20 years ago. And I think that you could tell they played with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. I remember watching that defense come out the first play of the game, and I texted our All-American group chat. I said, Tulane's on a mission.
Yeah, they were on a mission. And like I said at the top of the show, there are things that we get right on this show. There are things that we get wrong on this show. One of the things that I got right about this sometimes has to do with the opponents. Tarleton will be a challenge for Army. We'll talk about that in a minute. Texas A&M isn't 22 points better than UTSA. We got that one right. Boise State, not the same as what they were last year against South Florida. Got that one right. But boy, was I wrong about Preston Stone being a challenge for Tulane. They made him look like he was back at Parish Episcopal High School throwing against high school coverages at the TAPS level in Texas. Tulane made him look like a high school quarterback. And I mean, the stat line certainly showed there. They absolutely turned him over 4 times, 3 of those in the first half. The defense didn't let up. The physicality was there all the way through. They had the fumble recovery in the second half as well. I thought last year we saw John Summerall take this team to another level, take this team in year number 1 and achieve some things that were overachieving. I thought there was no way they would at least hit that in week 1. This looks like a team that could also be, as we talked about South Florida, a college football playoff hopeful type team. There were a couple of those in the conference last year. I think Tulane's another one of those in the conference this year too.
Well, I think just like South Florida, the defense is what really stood out to me. And we're going to talk about Jake Retzloff in just a second. But the Green Wave defense took no prisoners. They were everywhere. They were quick. They were attacking. They were all over Northwestern. Did not allow a touchdown in that game, as you said. The way that they made Preston Stone look like a high school quarterback was incredible. And so I think that so much of college football playoff teams starts with the defense. I know I sound like the old school ball coach using coach speak, but really in those bigger games when you're playing opponents that might be bigger, faster, and stronger than you, if you have good defenses, then you're going to at least give yourself a chance. And I think Tulane showed that not only do they have a good defense, they have a great, big, strong physical defense that can compete with a lot of teams in the country.
See, but I don't know if Northwestern was bigger, faster, and stronger than Tulane.
I don't think
Tulane
so.
was bigger, faster, stronger, and they executed better.
I just mean like moving forward, if we're talking about college football, the teams that Tulane would have to face in the college football playoff. I think another thing that would help them in the college football playoff is this transfer quarterback that earned the starting job in Jake Retzloff.
Oh, he was fun. I talked about the defense, and of course it started with a bang, and they had the interception. Jaheim Johnson helped on the opening drive. But the fact that they immediately turned around and turned it into 6. It's like a Christmas present. If somebody's going to hand you a present, do you want to just let it sit there in the wrapping, or do you want to open the present? And I think what Jake Retzloff did in that opening drive was they opened the present, and it helped set the tone for the rest of it. Jake Retzloff, Amari Hayes, that looks like the connection of the year between the two. But there were also 7 other guys on this team with a reception in the game. Hayes had 9 receptions, was easily the most targeted player. He was very electric, and he was open. He built separation. I mean, all the things you do as a receiver and a transfer that I feel like has a chance to be a superstar there with Tulane. But now you turn around and you look at where can you expand? Where can you find some depth on this Tulane roster? That's the biggest question mark going into the latter parts of the season. But when you got a guy like Jake Retzloff throwing the football, how fun was he?
He was. There was one run he had that I was just like, oh, I forgot just how good he was.
Was it the 69-yard touchdown run?
I think we just saw it on the highlights right there.
Look at it.
The one that there it is.
Goodbye.
I just remember watching it and I was like, oh,
who knew
Tulane's
they had
gonna
jets
be
in the water down there in New Orleans?
I was unaware.
It's like a hot tub.
I was unaware of his game, I guess, until that moment. But I say that jokingly.
He can run the ball.
He can run the ball. And I think the thing that I'm excited about with Jake Retzloff is he got to camp late.
So
he got
late.
to Tulane so late. So he's still probably
You and I were
learning.
already planning our first episode of All-American by
And
the time
we're like, oh, they have a transfer quarterback. Oh, he's had some success in the college
he
rankings
has.
so far. And so I think that he's only going to get better. He's going to learn the playbook a little bit more. And I think he has so many games of college football under his belt that it's just going to help. And I think taking a look at the rest of Tulane's schedule, now they have South Alabama coming up, but I think they can put themselves in a good spot to earn a place in the college football playoff if
Agreed.
they continue with the defense and that Jake Retzlaff.
And we know. I can hear the YouTube comments already. We're 2 schools in, and you've said they're both college football
But
playoff
they
contenders.
They are.
They are. That's the thing. It doesn't mean they're going to the college football playoff. It's contenders. That's what we're talking about here. Contenders. And I think when you look at it, they've got a matchup this week against South Alabama. It's another offense that can get up and down the field. And I think they'll probably have more success against Tulane this week than Northwestern did this week. However, I thought Northwestern would have more success. Tulane's defense will have another chance to show out against an offense that put up 38 points in their Week 1 win against Morgan State. Quarterback Bishop Davenport, 12 of 14 passing, 166 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jags look good on offense. They could run the football. Kendrell Bullock is their running back. He had over 120 yards rushing and a couple scores as well. So South Alabama will move the football, or they're going to attempt to. Tulane's the better team. They should take care of business. We should be talking about a 2-0 Green Wave team as they continue on in their non-conference schedule.
Tulane goes 1-0 in that first week. Another team, went 1-0 in the first week. They could go 2-0. Another team that went 1-0 in Week 1.
You good?
I'm not good. I'm struggling today.
Is that how excited you are to
I'm
talk
so
about
excited.
Navy football?
I want to talk about Navy and Blake Horvath.
I was excited to talk
I
about
was
him too,
getting
but I didn't
there.
realize I was that excited.
I was getting there, and there's no amount of editing that could save all my stumbles
We
in
don't
that.
have
but
editing. This is a live show.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
What are
But
you talking about?
there's no pre or post editing. But Navy, very good at football. Blake Horvath, very good at football. And Braxton Woodson making his appearance as well.
Blake Horvath didn't even have to do much. He didn't even have to do a whole lot. Yes, he was clean. Yes, the passing game was fine. He went 6 for 7 passing. I don't need to see Blake Horvath against VMI really light up the scoreboard. You know what I wanted to see? I wanted to see more Eli Heidenreich. Heidenreich went 9 carries, 70 yards. He had a touchdown on the ground, rushing. 6 receptions, 65 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown as well. The Swiss Army knife is back. And it wasn't alone. Teska found the end zone. Everybody else found the end zone, seemingly, for Navy. They put up a 50-burger in Week 1. There's not a whole lot to really break down here. They were the better team. They dominated from the jump. They didn't let any real love or any real confidence for VMI happen outside of this one big play that was their only score of the entire day. I liked what we saw from Navy. And then, not even to mention, they got some run for Braxton Woodson, who got in the game, and he looked great too.
Well, I think...
Look at this vision. The vision that he has here running the football looks like a kick returner.
Well,
That was on a run.
I think the thing for me with Braxton Woodson coming into that game is the fact that where Navy struggled last year was when Blake Horvath got hurt. And Woodson did a good job coming in relief to try to help Navy push their way through some of those games. But I think I really like what the midshipmen are doing here in rotating both of these quarterbacks so that they have different options if somebody gets hurt. Now, that's not saying it will happen, but this is college football.
Yeah.
You get banged up, especially with some of the bigger opponents that you might play down the road when they play Notre Dame. That was the turning point of their season last year when Blake Horvath had those rib injuries or whatever he was dealing with throughout the season. And so to have Braxton Woodson ready and have him have the confidence to do what he did against VMI, I like that option.
Shout out to Zach Fisher in the back. I like that title there at the top. Big play Braxton.
Alliteration.
Went ahead and, yeah, that's what they call it. 180 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, his future might be on the ground. And with this offense, you can have a running quarterback and have some success. I think you're fine there. But like I talked about, the vision was great. Everything looked great. Check all the boxes. Navy versus VMI turned out exactly how we thought it would. And then now they go into a conference matchup just like that.
And they're going to play a UAB team that struggled defensively in Week 1. They did a really good job on the offensive side of the ball. Yep. But the reason that UAB hired defensive coordinator Steve Russ, part of the reason was to defend against the option teams. He's going to have his first test playing Navy. This is the first conference game of the year, so I'm excited about it. I can't pick because I just want everybody to have fun as a representative of the American Conference. But when you take a look at this matchup, Kyle, what will each team need to win?
I love how you just throw this on me. You're like,
Hey, go ahead,
I'm
pick.
a full-time employee of the American.
I hope
have
everyone has
I have
fun.
to be very, very strategic when I talk about these teams. However, I don't. Navy's the better team. Sorry, UAB. You gave up 42 points to Alabama State in week 1. There's still a chance for you to play better this time around. It was 41-18 last year. Navy won that football game. I'm not saying anything that nobody doesn't know. That's just fact. Navy is the better team going in. I do think this is going to be a fun quarterback battle, though. Of course, Blake Horvath and what he's done, we've talked about him plenty on this show. I don't think we've talked about Jalen Kitna enough on this program. Jalen Kitna is a really good quarterback. Of course, Trent Dilfer, a former quarterback in his own right, former NFL player in his own right, believes that Jalen Kitna can be an NFL quarterback too. I agree. I think if he continues on his trajectory, what he's able to do, he could get there. But in order to do that, he has to play well against defenses like Navy's.
Right.
So we're going to see that this week. Just how much can Kitna take care of the football, one, because Navy loves the takeaway, continue to throw the ball deep downfield, those passes 15-plus yards down the field. He's going to have to connect on because Navy doesn't give up a whole lot underneath. They're too disciplined. They're too stout in between the 1 to 15 yards from the line of scrimmage. If Alabama State can put up 40-plus on UAB, though, I think the ceiling is higher for Navy and for Blake Horvath and Eli Heidenreich and Alex Teska. I mean, these are guys that are back for a reason, and they're back to make a statement. I expect a statement in the first conference matchup for Navy this week.
I think it's going to be a high-scoring, high-offense game for both sides.
I think so, too. I could see this being like a 70-point combined game. It could be there could be a lot of points here.
A lot of offense. Another game that had a lot of offense for one of the American schools was North Texas Lamar.
I know that game.
Do you?
I do know
Your
that
alma
game.
mater.
I was watching it for the sideline reporter that day.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
I heard she was really good.
She was good. She did a good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
It was Maria.
But let's
She
talk
just
a little.
complimented herself. I was trying to give her a compliment.
Well, you don't really give me a lot of compliments,
I
so
just
I just had
did.
to lean into it. I
Oh
was like,
my
"Thank you, I
gosh.
appreciate that." Kyle and I are actually going to work a game together in
Talk about that later.
in week 2, so we'll get to that in a little bit. But let's talk about North Texas. We know that Eric Morris is known for his offenses. We know that he's also known for developing quarterbacks. He has the legend and the lore of Drew Mestemaker coming in, and he was absolutely incredible against Lamar. What I mean by that is Drew Mestemaker has not won a football game as a starting quarterback since he was on the 9th grade B team. He played last year, but he's still a freshman by eligibility standards.
Well, he played in the bowl game.
Played in the bowl game. That was his one start. And he then played against Lamar, and he got his first win.
Yeah, he did. And he looked great doing so. I mean, the way that North Texas just found their offense again, not surprising. I think we can all expect it. Eric Morris coach team is going to score points, right? Can we all agree on that?
I'm in agreement
We
with you on
talked
that
about
one.
that all year long last year. And there were games where they got in a defensive stalemate. Army's the first one that comes to mind, where it was like 14-3, and they didn't score points with Chandler Morris, a quarterback who, by the way, played really well at Virginia this past week. I think Drew Mestemaker fits this system perfectly. If the wide receivers can get separation like they had some guys do last year, then I think you're going to have success, and that's what they did against Lamar. They had plenty of separation. They were able to find the offense, 24 of 32 passing, 329 yards and 3 touchdowns for a guy who had not won a game since he was a freshman in high school. Freshman in high school at Vandergrift High School down near Austin. I think it's an incredible story. I think everything's incredible on the offensive side. But the fact that Skylar Cassidy and the defensive coordinator for the Mean Green came in here, revamped the entire defense at North Texas, and had the first shutout as a program over whatever team they were playing on the other sideline. Didn't matter if they were playing Alabama, or it didn't matter if they were playing Texas, didn't matter if they were playing Lamar or Incarnate Word or some of these other schools. They never had a shutout from 2004 through 2024. But in his first game as a defensive coordinator, his first one, Skylar Cassidy and his defense pitch a shutout. That's unbelievable.
Well,
where were you in 2004?
I don't know. I was somewhere in Pennsylvania.
I was 8 years old.
I was little. How old was I?
I was 8 years old.
2003.
2003. One of the two.
2000. Well, yeah.
They didn't have one from 2004 to 2024.
Okay, I was like, well.
But the last one was in
So I was
2004.
like 6 or 7. So I probably wasn't even watching football yet.
It's been a long time since they had a shutout. They had a shutout against Lamar. Robert Coleman couldn't do anything passing-wise. 13 of 24 throwing the football, 88 yards and a touchdown. They didn't run the ball for anything. I mean, as a team, they were 27 carries, 31 yards. Lamar did not move the football. One of the big things on the defensive side is they wanted to get bigger, and they wanted to show that they were able to fly to the football and stay disciplined in their gaps on defense, stay disciplined in their assignment on defense. So far, check the box, they looked like that all the way through.
Well, I think a big advantage for Skylar Cassidy is he was able to bring his entire staff with him from Sam Houston. And if you look at what Sam Houston has done in the past, their defense has been really good. He was even able to bring some of the transfers over, and that helps as well because when we talked to him leading up to this game, he said it's almost like having a coach in every position room because if another player doesn't know exactly what coach is telling them, they can ask their teammate. It makes it a little bit easier. And so when you're coming to a new place, you're initiating a new scheme, he has a lot of different people helping him. And that was one thing that we talked about all last season was that North Texas needed to get better on the defensive side of the ball. Game 1, so far, so good.
Yeah, it all was great. They move on this week. They take on Western Michigan, a team that normally has talent week in, week out, year in, year out. Doesn't matter. But this isn't the same program that they were under PJ Fleck as. I mean, this is not the same row the boat Western Michigan that went to the Cotton Bowl against Wisconsin a couple years back. They're still trying to reach that level, and last week was a big example of that, where they were really outmatched by Michigan State, 23-6. North Texas enters that game as favorites, slight favorites, 2.5 on the road is what they're given on the spread at the moment. But the way that they played in week 1, it's basically a decision on whether or not it's a fluke or not. Can you do it against an FCS opponent week 1 and then do it against an FBS opponent in week 2? I don't think it's a fluke. I think it's part of the intention of why they went and hired Skylar Cassidy. You pair his defensive brilliance with the offensive brilliance of Eric Morris, and then all of a sudden you might have an undersung monster in the American that's just starting to find their stride this early in the season.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's a fluke. I think the combination of Eric Morris and Skylar Cassidy is something that we're going to talk about
It's gonna be fun
this entire year. But they do have their challenge in week 2 against the FBS opponent, so excited to break that down next week. Let's talk about another team in Texas, UTSA, a team that we thought may struggle a little bit against Texas A&M, but they started off not too bad.
Are you kidding? I thought they played really well in the first half. This is the big play. This one right here. This punt or the punt return, 80-plus yards out. KC Concepcion, NC State transfer, who actually had a great game, both in special teams and on the offensive side. That's the first touchdown of the game. It took them late into that first half to finally find the end zone, and it took a special teams play to do so. Defense had their lapses. This is another one in the passing game. But if you take away the special teams score in that first half, UTSA would have led 17-14 at the break. And so the way that they were able to run the football, we were talking about Owen McCown all of last week. I just would like to say a quick apology to Robert Henry Jr. for not talking about you last week, because apparently you took that to heart and you decided to go for 16 carries, 177 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's fine. Keep doing what you're doing. He was great. Takes off at the second level, runs away from an SEC defense. I thought he was about as impressive as anything in that ball game. And it kind of reminded me of what some of the top backs last year did in the American against top-level competition. Guys like Mario Anderson for Memphis, who played really well in some of their top games against Florida State and a couple others early in that season. Mekhi Hughes for Tulane, how he played against Oklahoma, how he played against Kansas State last year for the Green Wave. Those guys went on to have incredible seasons because of what they showed early in the campaign and the confidence they were able to build against top-level competition. I think we've got ourselves a legitimate draft pick possibility if not a leading rusher possibility on the UTSA offense. And that's to pair with a quarterback that you trust significantly in Owen McCown as well.
Well, I have 2 points to that. Well, one, I just thought the explosiveness from Robert Henry is what stood out to me because, as you said, these are SEC defenses that he's just breaking free from. He's incredibly explosive. He finds his way through those defenses. But I think the thing for me is the combination of him with Owen McCown, because now you have kind of a dual threat with the way that McCown can throw the football. If you have Henry and his ability to use his legs, I think that this helps the UTSA offense. Now, the defense struggled a little bit, but I think they're going to figure it out, right? This is a very new defense that Jeff Traylor wasn't even sure about coming into the season because of all that they lost from last year. And so I think Week 1 was a really tough test for them, but I think Week 2 will kind of get a better sense of who this UTSA team can be.
Yeah, and we mentioned that last week. We talked about it and said, hey, this offense is going to be fine. They're experienced. They have guys coming back. They have some talent. They have some speed. All of that's going to come together, but this defense is going to be a work in progress, and we saw part of the work in progress. Did fine in the first half. They gave up just the 2 touchdowns defensively in the first half. So really, I'm not overly upset about how they played against a better offense. Marcel Reed and company are a really good team. I mean, that Texas A&M squad has a chance to do something decent there in College Station this year. So I really don't want to discount what the defense played like in that first half. You got to continue to get better, tackle better, continue to move on. And I think we'll talk about this UTSA team as a legitimate force in the American. Before they get to conference play, they do take on Texas State. And I just want to say, I feel bad for Texas State. I feel bad for the Bobcats. They won 49-10 last year. You enjoyed your fun. That was kind of a surprise at the time. I don't think that's going to happen this year. Sorry. I just don't. I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think UTSA is the better team because I didn't want to offend Texas State. That's all it is. I will say it with my chest. UTSA's, I think, the better team here. I thought they were the better team last year, but you take a look at the I-35 rivalry. It's not much of a rivalry until last year. The Bobcats were the better team. They ended up beating North Texas in the First Responders Bowl to cap off a really good year down there in San Marcos. I think San Antonio is going to be hopping with this one. The Alamo Dome on a Saturday night. They're going to be pumped to watch this game. They're going to be pumped for some revenge. I think this is a revenge game. And again, as we've said many, many times on this show, Jeff Traylor does not what?
Lose in the Alamo Dome.
Boom. There you go.
I have to agree with you on this one. I just think that anytime that you have to play UTSA on the road, if I was a betting woman, my money would be on UTSA. I'm not. But I'm not.
Because you're a conference employee.
Because I'm a conference employee.
We don't do that.
We don't do that at all. But I'm picking UTSA in this one against Texas State.
I like it. Let's move on. Memphis Tigers, they go into this post-Seth Hennigan era of Memphis Tigers football, or as it should actually be more accurately named, how about the Brendan Lewis era of Memphis Tigers football? How clean was he in his debut? Ground game was rolling. Passing game was efficient. 22 for 28 passing. $199 through the air. A couple touchdowns in that matchup. But really, it was the ground game that stood out to me all the way through this matchup.
Well, I think clean is the perfect word to use to describe the way that he played quarterback. I just think that he did everything that he was supposed to do and didn't try to do too much. And again, let me backtrack because I know that sounds like coach speak. But I think that there's a lot of pressure coming into a program that had one of the most prolific quarterbacks in the history, not only of your school, but of the conference that you're entering. Yeah. And I think that Brendan Lewis just allowed himself to be Brendan Lewis. And because of that, the ground game was good, and he threw when he needed to. He was efficient, and it's exactly what Memphis needed in game one.
Yeah, and remember, he comes in with plenty of experience. He had 2,200 passing yards, number one rusher for Nevada last year as well. I don't think he'll continue to be the number one rusher on this Memphis Tigers offense just because they do utilize their backfield so effectively and they get plenty of touches for guys all the way through. Now, he did lead the team in rushing. He did go 10 carries, 81 yards. I thought Frank Peasant looked good. We talked about him last week, 6 carries, 61 yards. He got just enough pop when he needed it. Sutton Smith, who was another guy we mentioned as a possible backup. Everybody got touches. There were 4 guys that had at least one rushing score and at least 25 yards rushing on at least 4 carries. That's efficient, it's balanced, and you're going to continue to see that throughout the season.
Well, I think Sutton Smith really stood out to me as well because it's somebody that Ryan Silverfield told us coming into the season that he thought could have a really good year. And I think he's slowly getting back into the player that he maybe once was before he got hurt. And so I think that bodes well also for the Tigers. And I think in this matchup against Georgia State, it puts them in a good position. They get that first win. I think they can pick up a second win in week 2.
Can I take a one shot here if I could, Zach? If we could get to that point. I know we're on a beautiful 2-box look, and it looks incredible. And it's got the B-roll working there. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. If we're talking about the run game looking good, if we're talking about the passing game being clean, they were not sacked at any point in this entire matchup. I'm going to take my glasses off for this because I think it needs to be serious. I think it needs to be said.
And the computers getting closed. Oh,
give credit to the offensive line, the big guys up front. I love what that offensive line for the Miami Tigers. It looked like the Miami Dolphins offensive line because the Memphis Tigers took care of business in that matchup. I just want to give credit to the big guys. They don't ever get us enough credit. They got all the credit in the world. Kudos, Memphis Tigers offensive line.
I will give a ton of credit to the offensive line. I mean, you got really serious there. Even the glasses came off.
I think you got to give the big guys credit.
I want to make that a point of emphasis this year. We got to pay attention to who really stands out on the O-line, and we're going to start talking about O-linemen. That's what we're going to do.
It's just going to be the O-lineman show.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about any of the skill players, nothing.
It's my favorite position.
No, but in all seriousness, let's do it. Let's focus on the O-lineman, making a pact.
Okay.
O-lineman, we got you the rest of the season. Unless you play bad, then we're not going to talk about you. Promise.
And then that's the case. Yeah. Sorry, I tried to relocate Memphis to Miami, but you get what I was trying to say.
Yeah, a little bit different.
Yeah, they're legit. All right, they move on this week. They take on a team in the Georgia State side that just fell 63-7 against Ole Miss. 63-7. Yep, that's correct. I expect much of the same. I don't think there should be any sort of drop-off. I know Georgia State probably step up FBS, FCS again from Chattanooga this past week, but I expect much of the same from Memphis.
I agree with you. As you said, clean game. The O-line was good. Run game and pass game, efficient, good for the Tigers. Now, how about Kyle? We have 6 new head coaches in the league. No, we have 6
what happened
new
to the other?
Sorry, 3 new ones that got victories in their first game with their program. Scott Abel was one of them.
Oh, how fun was that? I liked the way they had some swagger. You can see it here, the energy from Scott Abel. This is a Rice team that has some speed that they really haven't had in the past. I mean, they, of course, the spread option was firing on all cylinders. They were moving the ball effectively. They went into Louisiana's house, a new stadium. They were unveiling a new stadium. There was lots of excitement there, and the Rice Owls spoiled the party with their new game plan. Came out early, scored 14 points early. And then the defense locked things down in that second half and made it really interesting down the stretch.
Well, I think when we looked at Rice last season, the thing that I always struggled with was trying to figure out what their identity was. I feel like they'd have some games where they'd upset big opponents in the conference, and then they'd lose to like a really bad team. And so I couldn't really get a pulse on them. And I think the thing I like about Scott Abel is we know what we're going to expect from them, especially on the offensive side of things. And as you said, that defense stepping up, I think, will bode well, especially till these guys can learn this system and the offense that Abel's teaching.
Flying to the football, taking away passing lanes. Louisiana entered this game. They were hype about an LSU and Ole Miss transfer quarterback Walker Howard. They're not as hype anymore. One, because I think he went down with an injury at the end of the game. But before that, he went 10 of 22 passing for 88 yards and a pick. Rice looked great defensively. And I don't know if you can really rely on the defense all year long to bail yourself out on the offensive side. That was the one knock I had against the Rice Owls in this game, is the fact that they started the game so effectively. They came out, they were running the football, they showed some speed. I thought we saw some really fun things from a guy like Quentin Jackson, who's kind of a lightning in a bottle sort of player. You need that speed in the spread option. You're going to have many guys misdirection, carrying the football, toss, option, whatever it may be, bang, 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 bang. You need some speed, and Rice hasn't had that in the past. Offensive line's got to be a little bit better. Louisiana really challenged that offensive line, especially going into the second half. And the big guys up front got to pave the way a little bit better for the ground game in order to not only have the 14 points in the first half, but to put some points on the board in the second half. Not a knock against Abel, not a knock against Rice. They got the job done. They won the game. period. And I think they're a better Rice team this year than they were at any point last year. And that's a credit to Scott Abel and this entire offense and what they were able to do, entire coaching staff for that matter, because of what the defense was able to show on Saturday. I think they've got a legit shot to win some games in the league.
So a question for you about the offense and just some of the things that you touched on. Do you think that scoring, the quickness of it, do you think that comes with time and more reps until they understand how to run it better? Or do you think that it maybe will never come? Like, what do you think will happen with Rice?
Two things here. One, first-year head coaches usually take time to manifest their system, to make a program their own. It takes a little bit of time for that to happen. That's just the plain and simple side of building a program. It's a little bit easier to do it now than you did previously because recruiting is what it is and the transfer portal is what it is. You don't have to wait 3 or 4 years for a coach to put his fingerprints on a program. You can really do it within 2 or 3 years now if you're being effective with what you're doing. We saw it from John Summerall last year in Tulane. Sure, he inherited a talented program, but he was able to put his own stamp on it and they played his brand of football. I think Abel's doing that already, and a big benefit of that is the second point I'm getting to. He was hired in the middle of November last year. He didn't wait around until the end of the season. He got to see the Rice Owls in the 2024 season play games with who he wanted to be in certain situations in mind. So though they were making the switch from a pro-style scheme on offense to a spread option type of scheme on offense, he was able to look at a couple of those guys and say, I want you to be back in the fold. I don't want you to be back in the fold. I want you to be back in the fold. And that's how helping him mold this thing early on. And that's going to be an effective approach for Scott Abel. It's not going to be perfect. There's still going to be growing pains, and there's a long way to improve. And I think we saw that from half number 1 to half number 2 in that football game against Louisiana. Put up 14 points in the first half. You built yourself a lead. All of that is great. You held on down the stretch, and Louisiana was right there. It would have been a little bit more interesting if Howard, their quarterback, would have stayed in the fold despite that injury late in the fourth quarter. I think Rice is heading in the right direction. I think Abel has an ability to push them into a new era, and I think we just saw a short taste of that in week 1.
We might see more of a taste of it in week 2. They have Houston, and if you are not sick of us by that point, you can tune into that game because Kyle and I will be on the call for Rice versus Houston.
Can't wait.
The Bayou Bucket Classic.
Yeah, it's a trophy game.
I'm excited.
I love this matchup. I really do. And it's not on everybody's radar as like, oh, big-time college rivalry, but the last couple of years have been really, really fun. Of course, Houston got the better of Rice last year, 33-7, but that was a 2-overtime game in 23 that we didn't have All-American for at that point, or at least this edition of All-American at that point. But it went to 2 overtimes, and Rice ended up winning in that matchup. So 1-1 over the last 2 years. New coaching staff on the Rice side. Willie Fritz is entering his second year on the Houston side, which, by the way, good old friend. Remember where Willie Fritz was before?
I think he was
Houston?
in New Orleans, wasn't he?
He was in New Orleans at Tulane beforehand. So he's in year number 2. Same thing there. He's in year 2. This is a transfer portal heavy Houston Cougars team where they were able to try and build through the transfer portals. One of their additions, Connor Wigman at quarterback, he can still ball. He was one of the top recruits in the country, started his career at Texas A&M. He's going to be a tough challenge for that defense who had a great game against Louisiana, shut down a former SEC quarterback in week 1 with Howard at Louisiana. Now they got to do it again against Connor Wigman in week 2. But I don't think this is as cut and dry as Big 12 American Power 4 whatever. I don't want to put any stock into that. I think Rice is going to make this a football game at home.
I'm excited for it. I agree with you. I think that they have a chance to make some noise against Houston. Now, a team that had some noise maybe made against them for not the greatest.
We got to talk about it.
Got to talk about it.
We got to talk
Army
about it.
loses to Tarleton.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. And I said it last week. Like I said, I tried to warn everybody.
You did.
I tried to warn them.
You did try to warn everybody.
I didn't think this would be the result. I didn't think Tarleton, a team out of the FCS playing in the United Football Conference, would have the result that they had in this week 1 matchup. And give credit to the Texans. Give credit. They never went away. They kept making the big plays when they needed to. They were down by 14 at one point. Army just made far too many mistakes. That was the problem for me.
I think they kind of beat themselves. There are a couple missed field goals. I think in the big moments they didn't execute when they could have maybe stepped on the gas a bit more.
Third down and longs. They could have converted on a couple of those defensively. Tarleton was set up in third down and long, give up a big scramble to a quarterback, big completion down the right sideline. It didn't matter. It felt like they couldn't get off the field.
And I think it's just tough, too, because I wonder how much, and coaches will tell you that it doesn't play a factor, but how much thought was put into, okay, we won the American last year. We had a great season last year. How much more pressure are on these young men as they come into the season? Because unlike other places that have a ton of different transfers, it's all returners, right? You know what I mean? Like, you might have some freshmen and some younger guys coming into the fold, but for the most part, a lot of the people that were on the team last year are still on the team because people don't transfer out of Army. And so I think that the mistakes are what killed them, and that's why they fell to an FCS opponent.
Yeah, they couldn't get out of their own way at times, and the goal line interception was huge. That was a big turning point in that game. Of course, they were able to still, even with the mistakes that they had early in the game, they were able to build a 2-score lead and put some distance there, but they didn't close the door when they could have. Okay. They didn't close the door and get down the field and beat them like they should have with the talent that Army has, because even with the guys that they lost, Army should not be in a conversation to lose at home against an FCS opponent. That's just not the case. I think even with all of this, we saw exactly what Army can do with the football.
I like Dwayne Coleman. I liked him. I thought
they've
he did
got
a good
some
job.
speed. They've got some power. The occasional big play. All of that was still there from Dwayne Coleman in this offense. Was he perfect? No. He had 2 picks, and they were 2 really bad picks, to be completely honest. Either just didn't see the guy or didn't read it right. And I think he would say the exact same thing. That's not up to the standard for Dwayne Coleman. But one of the best parts about Bryson Daly and what he did as a quarterback, and we said it last week, Dwayne Coleman does not need to be Bryson Daly. He needs to be Dwayne Coleman. But one of the best parts about Daly was that he let the game come to him. He didn't let the moment or the pressure situation rattle him at any point to force him into big throws and try and make the big throw when times were tight. That way he avoided mistakes and he avoided the team hurting plays. Coleman tried to force things at times, and it came back to bite him in the end. And that's ultimately what was the downfall for this team and for Army across the board. I think there was part of them that were maybe looking ahead. Maybe they were looking at Kansas State this week, and they were saying, hey, this one shade of purple out of the FCS just isn't our thing. We'll take care of business, and we'll face this other shade of purple that currently plays in the Big 12 next week. And they just got beat. And that's just, it's part of college football. Upsets are a thing. Credit, again, to Tarleton and the Texans. They're about 2 hours from where we sit here in Dallas recording the show in Studio A. Give credit to them. They played a really good football game, and they didn't go away either. They didn't quit on the road. Army should respect that, but now you got to move on and put it behind you.
And as you said, they play another purple team in Kansas State who already has 2 games under their belt because they opened up in that week 0 with Iowa State. So they're 1-1. They had a tough loss, and they squeaked by North Dakota. So they're
yeah, they did.
So I think that they're going to be out for blood a little bit more. Army is. I think it's going to be a very physical matchup before those two.
Yeah, it's going to get physical. And Kansas State's not happy. They almost had that FCS upset too, because North Dakota was just one possession away from winning that game. I mean, they needed one stop. Yeah. One stop is all they needed to win that game. And maybe it was the quick turnaround from Dublin, and maybe it's going to take a little bit for them to figure it out. Hopefully that's the case for Army, because they need to turn it around and win. Kansas State, I don't know if there's any sneaking up on them this week. Avery Johnson, their quarterback, said in the postgame presser about the North Dakota game, he said, we have to be better. This is the same sentiment that's up in West Point right now. You have to be better. Army's going to need to execute in all 3 phases, or we're going to be looking at an 0-2 Army team just 1 year later, after when they started the season undefeated all the way through, it felt like, until the latter parts of the season. It's really quite the turnaround.
And I think it's comes down to the mental aspect of it now, right? Because you go from the highest of highs and to what could be a very low if you end up 0-2. And so how quickly can you make that turnaround? How quickly can you fix those mistakes and get back out on the field? Speaking of turnaround, Tulsa starting off 1-0 this season.
I like it. We talked about the swagger last week. How about this for swagger, Trey Lamb? They got a youthful pride to them. Oh, yeah. Celebrate there, Trey. Yeah, you're not going to see Casey Keeler getting up in the air like that. That is Trey Lamb, baby.
I think that's one individual player who picked him up.
Yeah, probably.
I don't think that was a tandem. That was impressive. Maybe it was an O-lineman.
Maybe it was. Give credit to the big guys.
We're giving credit to the O-lineman.
That's the theme of the show today. I like it.
We should just have multiple graphics with all the O-linemen. I think that would be good. Next week, we'll get our producer, Zach Fisher, on that one. But
can I say, I didn't realize they had that level of team speed. They can fly.
Yeah.
Tulsa's got some speed now. And they had some guys in the past, guys like Benjamin and of course, a couple years back, they had a couple really good players that when the year that they went to the conference title game back in 2020, they had some guys. But, man, ACU drove down the field, made things interesting inside the red zone on their second drive, but then a fourth down stop from the 3-yard line set the tone for the rest of the game. And then Tulsa was able to, bang, out of the gates, 97-yard drive. They had the big play to Zion Booker for 36 yards. Then they found him again for a 12-yard touchdown to cap off the 97-yard drive. Kirk Francis led Tulsa in the offense with 218 passing yards, 20 of 31 throwing the football, a couple touchdowns with a pick. I thought they ran the ball effectively. Dominic Richardson was really fun to watch, had 20 carries for 142 yards and a touchdown. That's a complete balanced attack. And the speed, there goes Richardson out of the gate. He was fun to watch. The entire Tulsa offense was fun to watch.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head with what you just said there. It was a complete offense, but it was also just a complete team win. I think both sides of the ball, Tulsa executed. And I really liked what Kirk Francis did as well. That was somebody that Trey Lamb was really high on coming into this season. He knew the potential that he had to play a good quarterback for the Golden Hurricane, and he executed and did everything that he needed to in this game one.
And that's the thing is you're going to have different players, different quarterbacks. It feels like this Tulsa team is already a family, though. Just the way, even the reaction there at the end, the way that they were talking about themselves going through camp, it just feels like it's a different feel. And you're going to get that with a coaching staff here and there, and a new coaching staff, especially one as highly reveled as Trey Lamb was when he was hired. They're headed in the right direction, and I know it's week one, and it's going to be an overreaction one way or the other. They took care of business and against a really good FCS opponent. ACU's a formidable FCS opponent. I think Tulsa's headed in the right direction. Now they're going to get tested pretty quick in week two, a very winnable game. They're actually 2-point favorites on the road against New Mexico State this weekend, who's coming off of a win 19-3 against Bryant. But Tulsa looked better in their win against ACU than New Mexico State did against their win against Bryant, and I would say ACU is probably a better team FCS-wise than Bryant is.
Well, especially offensively, I just thought Tulsa looked like they were clicking and firing on all cylinders, and so I'm excited to see what they can do against New Mexico State. And to your point about the way that the camaraderie was in the locker room, that was something Trey Lamb talked to us about as well. Was just he said it's one of the most favorite places he's been as a coach so far. So again, it's early in the season, anything could be an overreaction at this point, but I'm liking the way the Golden Hurricane are trending.
Yeah. Sort of remind me of North Texas last year. Not to bring it all back within North Texas or anything, but the fact that it's a team that has a quarterback that's sort of been written off by other programs, but he's a veteran, been around a couple different places, but it's comfortable with the current program that he's with. A young, hip play caller that knows how to find receivers and find some speed in space. You have some speed in some of those ball carriers too. I think all of those things kind of stack up along the way. And maybe they're an under-the-radar team. They've got a chance to go to a bowl game this year. They've got a chance to turn things around entirely. I like what Tulsa showed in week one, and I think there's a chance they can continue that success going into week two against New Mexico State as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. But we got to transition to one more team that we're going to talk about today.
Let's talk about them.
Charlotte, who opened up with App State.
Mm-hmm.
They have a big game coming up this week. We're not going to get to that just yet. But when you took a look at what they did against App State, What were some of the highlights for you?
Well, this first play was pretty incredible. How about the effort there from behind? Jaden Barnes looked like he had a TD, and then Jaquarius Conley hustles to the football, pokes it out at the 1-yard line, ends up being a touchback. It turns into a Charlotte field goal. They go up 3-0. All things were fine and dandy at that point. I thought everything was good there. And then it just kind of went downhill from that point forward, and it happened so quick.
Yeah.
In the second quarter. The explosive plays were a big thing. App State had like 8 or 9 of those throughout the game. It would have been a one-score game at halftime if not for the final 36 seconds in the second quarter where App State scored a touchdown, threw this interception on the first play of the drive, and then turned around and had a field goal in quick succession. Then they got the football to start the second half. So all of those things play a factor in what could have been a much closer game to what ended up being a 34-11 final score.
Well, I think with a team like Charlotte, they just have so many new pieces on this roster, and everybody does, right? It's the era of the transfer portal, but even more so, a lot of new faces, a lot of young guys, and they have a new head coach. And so I think that that's what happens when you have so much newness, is that one mistake occurs and then it snowballs into a lot. And so I think moving into week 2, if the 49ers can figure out how to maybe limit some of those mistakes and keep games within reach, they'll give themselves a better chance.
Connor Harrell did some nice things. I thought he threw the ball around a little bit. And now they've got the in-state rivalry renewed. How about North Carolina coming to town? Bill Belichick. Wow, what happened to them on Monday night against TCU? What a beatdown. It was kind of one of those things that you have to watch. It's like a train wreck. You just got to watch it. You can't look away. And I mean, that was as bad of a debut for Bill Belichick as possible, and it ended up being there's Bill in Chapel Hill. One thing he doesn't have there is wins at the Division I level, because he's 0-1 as a Division I head coach, and he's going to have that team ready to play in week 2. That's for sure.
Well, I think he's one of the greatest NFL coaches of all time because of the way he can make adjustments, right?
Yeah.
So he's definitely deep into the
true.
film already. He might have started it before he even walked off the field last night. And so I think that's going to bode well for North Carolina, because they are really going to look to redeem themselves. For Charlotte, though, can they capitalize on a Tar Heels team that is down? And I think that'll be the big question mark coming into week 2.
Man, Charlotte has a chance to really set that thing ablaze in Chapel Hill and play spoiler. Really has a chance to do something there. Biggest question for me, Gio Lopez, starter for North Carolina at the quarterback position, South Alabama transfer. We got to talk about him a little bit last year, facing some American competition. Went 128 minutes in that game without a completion. That's 2 hours worth of gameplay without a completion against TCU. And then you turn around and he got banged up at the end of the game. Max Johnson had to come in, the Texas A&M transfer, finish the game. So I think there's a lot of questions there in Chapel Hill. I wouldn't put it past Charlotte making this a game. Still a tough, tall order, especially when Belichick's going to be the one making the adjustments and trying to rally the troops. But still, I think it's something that they have to look forward to this week. And North Carolina has less time to make those adjustments coming off of a short week. They'll have to turn around and do it quickly.
Just another exciting game in the American slate, because there's 14 teams in action. Again, Charlotte, North Carolina is one of those games, but we have a full schedule of American Conference
Full
games.
schedule to take a look at. Let's take a look at that schedule now, as really you could start anywhere with this schedule.
Oh.
Weekend gets kicked off with Howard and Temple. You've got that Western Michigan, North Texas matchup. How about the first conference slate of the entire season? UAB and Navy on the list as well, plus 2 really good games down there in the bottom left-hand corner too.
Oh, that South Florida game. That's
It's pretty much the whole schedule.
It basically is. I mean, there's a lot of good games just on that slate, but wait, there's more.
You jumped the gun a little bit, but I'll give you credit.
I did a little bit, but some more games there. That Army-Kansas State game. I want to see how the Black Knights respond. Memphis, Georgia State. Can they continue what they did in week 1? East Carolina and Florida Atlantic in action as well.
We did not talk about East Carolina today. They hung in there against NC State, had a chance to come from behind in that victory, made it a 1-score game, unable to win it. How do they respond against Campbell? And then one more slate, North Carolina, Charlotte, that Tulane matchup that we mentioned. We'll be on the call for Houston and Rice alongside Dave Steckel, former coach in his own right. So be sure to join us Saturday night in Houston for the Bayou Bucket rivalry. Can't wait for that one.
I'm stoked.
And then a Tulsa team that looked great under Trey Lamb. How do they keep going against that New Mexico State squad?
I don't know. We're going to find out, but I'm excited for all the games in week 2 of college football.
And we're going to be in a stadium.
We are going to be in a stadium.
You know what's fun about stadiums?
What is fun about stadiums?
It's fun to play a guessing game with stadiums. Ooh. And that's what we're going to do here on All-American. We have wiped out all of the possible paraphernalia to where we can decide what stadium this is, and we're going to play a game here.
Okay.
What stadium is this? And you just have to guess off of the size and shape of the stadium. You see this on TikTok or social media all the time. We're going to take a shot at it. This is Guess the Stadium American Conference Edition. I have a feeling Maria is going to be pretty good at this. Let's start us off. Oh, that's a gimme for week 1. Gimme for the first one.
Alamo Dome.
That is the Alamo Dome. Come on now. I don't even have the answers. We're going to figure this out together. That is by far the Alamo Dome. A nice little gimme for the first time.
1 and 1.
Have you been to the Alamo Dome yet?
I have not yet.
Oh,
that's
okay.
why. That was good for me. I was proud of myself. That's one stadium I haven't been in yet.
That's the only dome in the entire conference, right?
I think so.
I think so too.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next one. There's UTSA. Which one is this one? You should know this one.
Ooh, stop saying that, because when I get them wrong, I'm gonna feel bad.
Then you're gonna feel bad.
Can you guess first?
I know it, so
Okay,
I can't guess first.
Okay.
This is gonna be a double whammy for you. I'm gonna.
Is that Navy?
No, it's not Navy. That is Lincoln Financial Field.
Oh, that's bad that I didn't know
Temple
that.
Owls and the Philadelphia Eagles.
That's horrible.
You are an Eagles fan, madam.
And I did a game there last year.
Cowboys are playing the Eagles this
Birds.
week. Go Cowboys. We just proved which fan base actually cares about their team the most.
Oh, my goodness.
All right,
okay.
continue on. That's the best thing that's ever happened on this show.
Oh, that's
Thank you.
really bad. Zach is probably so mad at me right now.
Which one's that one? You know that one?
Oh, I'm really bad at these.
You are bad at this.
Tulane?
That's Florida Atlantic.
I've been there
It's-
too.
I mean, that's FAU.
They don't have the branding on them.
It's because we're taking it off of there.
I know, it's really hard.
It's not that hard.
Okay.
It's blue and red.
Okay.
And the beach is not far away. You can even see the
I
beach on
see
that
the
photo.
beach.
All right, which one's this one? Come on, you got to get this one right, too.
Have I been in this one before?
I don't think so. Yet?
I can't.
You're taking a look at it?
I have no. Oh, wait. Yes, I know this one. Is
What
this
is it?
Rice?
Yeah, you're going to be there on Saturday.
I know this, but I've been there before.
Good job.
The concrete over there.
The concrete. You have been to that stadium?
I haven't
Okay.
done a game there yet,
But
but
you've been to
I've
it.
been to the stadium.
Okay,
Yeah.
very nice. The
Yeah.
Tudor Field House
Yeah.
right there, too.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so there's Rice. Got
Okay.
another one here. Which one is this one?
Tulsa.
That is Tulsa.
I knew that one.
You thought so right off the bat?
Yeah, I was actually pretty sure because I've been there too.
Okay, good. Well, now we're catching back up. She's got a couple of them that she's getting close here. That is Tulsa.
Okay.
It's a fun little stadium, H.A. Chapman Stadium. Do you know this one?
Is that Memphis?
No.
I guess.
Unless it's an old Memphis.
I don't know where that is.
I don't know if I know that one.
Did we finally stump you too?
No, give me a second.
Wait. It kind of is that.
This is the first one I didn't know right off the bat.
I can't see because I don't see the Hudson, so I don't. It's not Army.
I was thinking, is this
Navy?
UAB? You know what?
I have no idea.
I'm done. I don't know this one.
It is Navy.
It is Navy. I should have known that one.
Oh, that's bad that I almost thought it was Army.
Yeah, that would
I'm gonna
be-
get
that
some
would be
hate in the comments
embarrassing.
for that.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
I have never been to
I'm
Navy,
shocked
actually.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
I've never been to Landover either. I would love to make a trip there. That's a
Annapolis,
bucket.
you mean?
Sorry, Landover's where the
That-
FedEx Field is
Yes,
going to be.
that's fair. That's
That's
fair.
where they play
was
the Army Navy
Navy game.
Yeah.
That was
bad.
All
right,
easy.
we got one more here.
That was understandable.
Yeah, another Maryland school.
Oh.
That one's kind of a tough angle.
That's a beautiful picture, though.
Tough angle. What do you
I'm
think that
looking
one
here
is?
because there's another screen over here
Yeah,
that I'm
I'm gonna-
hoping will help my eyesight, but I don't know. I have no idea.
Ooh, that's another one that's tough. That's another one that's tough. I don't know that one either.
I don't know, but whoever took that picture, the sunset, man, that's beautiful.
It's a nice picture.
I don't know where it is, though. East Carolina. What does that say?
Oh, yeah, it is East Carolina.
East Carolina.
I should have
I've never
known.
been
It's
there.
The purple.
I've never been to the football stadium there.
I haven't either.
I've been to East Carolina for a lot of other things, but
Darn.
not that.
Well,
All right. I didn't do well, but I was better than I thought I might do.
you forgot Lincoln Financial Field.
Yeah, okay. That's fair.
That's bad.
Does, like, my Birds fandom get, like,
Yeah, it does.
revoked?
Yeah, you get like
fully?
a
Like,
1
who do
week.
I have to root for this year?
You
then?
have a 1 week suspension for that.
So I have to cheer for the Cowboys in week 1?
There you go. All right.
Nope.
All right.
Just kidding.
Let's get into top plays. Our top plays of the week. Maria Trivelpiece, would you like to start us off in our top plays?
I will gladly start us off because play number 5 comes from the game that I was at North Texas. We talked about Drew Mestemaker, but how about Wyatt Young making multiple
Oh, my
defenders miss,
goodness.
staying on his feet, jumping into the end zone to just add to the mean green total.
1, 2, 3. Spin out of there.
Woo!
I like that. That's called low center of gravity. Wyatt Young had himself a game.
He did.
Played well.
It was impressive. Former quarterback turned receiver. North Texas has a lot of success with that.
Yeah, they have.
How about you take us to play number 4?
Let's take us to play number 4. We go to Army. West Point. It wasn't a great day for Army, but this was a great play for Army. Dropping back to pass. Coleman looks downfield. He has Brady Anderson over the top of the defense, right down that right hash mark. Anderson reels it in. Big play for Army, and they would go on to score on this drive, but they would not win the football game, unfortunately. 2 overtime loss to Tarleton State, but they do land at number 4 on our top plays. Maria?
That was fun. Diving backwards. I like the athleticism. We did some football. How about we take a look at some women's soccer for
some
play number
football?
3? A different form of football.
There you go.
And you have to have Memphis when you talk about women's soccer, especially Ai Kitagawa. 1, I love saying her name. 2, she's very good at soccer. 3, this secured the victory over Missouri. The Memphis Tigers just taking down SEC opponents week after week. They have another big matchup this week against Tennessee.
Ooh, that is going to be fun. Memphis is starting to show that they're not just a contender for the American, but they might be a national title sneaky pick there and they've always been great with women's soccer. Great program there. They're in the top 15 rankings wise now. Watch out for the Memphis Tigers. All right, moving on to number 2. This is the second best play of our week, and we're going to the soccer pitch. How about this? Tulsa, bow, no, thank you. Well, sliding grab. I said grab. I'm still talking football. Sliding save beats the goalkeeper. What a touch, but not so fast, my friend. Lee Corso style, pointing the finger with the pencil. No, thank you. That's an incredible play to save a goal.
Kevin Thallinger just coming in for the Golden Hurricane. Hey, you got to have your teammates having your back.
Would you say he stormed down the field?
He did storm down the field.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'll give you that
Golden
one.
Hurricane?
I picked
Bow.
up on that. All right, our number 1 play of the week. Because how could it not be our number 1 play of the week? South Florida against Boise State. You think a punt? No, not today. Lachlan Hewlett comes in. I know, I can't even say his name.
Hewlett.
I wish I could say that was intentional, but it wasn't. Fakes the punt. Perfect pass on a dime. Oh, my goodness. We already talked about the Bulls. This had to be play number 1.
From every point forward in his entire career with South Florida, on this show, you will hear me call Lachlan Hewlett. And it's not intentional initially, but that's the cool name that I'm going to give you.
I should have just said it was intentional and just
You just got to fake it till you make it.
faked it till I make it.
Like a fake punt. Fake punts, fake it till you make it. Come on now, I'm rolling, baby, here on All-American. And we're not even done with punts. We're not even done with top plays. We've got a bonus top play for you. And that's because punters are people too. We talked about the swagger from Tulsa. How about do it for the brand? Do it for Tulsa. Do it for punters. This one goes 80 yards all the way down. Wave it along, young man. An 80-yard punt, Maria Trivelpiece. This is incredible.
Do you think you could do that?
An 80-yard punt?
Yeah.
No. I don't think I can do anything that is 80 yards. I don't know if I could sprint 80 yards.
You could definitely sprint 80 yards. I have faith in you.
I don't know. That's incredible. That's why these people are world-class athletes, and they put us on a microphone.
Yes,
because
there's a reason.
World-class. That is insane.
We are not world-class athletes,
We're
but
just broadcasters.
world-class yappers.
That
We
is
were the
case.
kids in school that said talks too much on their report card.
Hewlett. Hewlett, baby. Yeah, that was the top play of the week. If you weren't going to put that as top play, I would question your sports knowledge immediately.
I'm sure you would. I'm sure you would hold me accountable
Probably.
to that. But that's what we do on this show. We hold people accountable. We make predictions. Well, Kyle makes predictions because I just hope every American team has fun. That's what we're going with. I hope that they have fun in week 2 because week 1 certainly was fun for us to watch. Make sure you catch All-American again next week. I'm Maria Trivelpiece. He's Kyle Youmans. Here's to week 2.